Good evening. Welcome to Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast. I am your host, Tabatha L. Tonight I will provide important insight on custom kiosk stations, also known as retail merchandising units. I will provide information on why these kiosk stations fail electrical inspections. I will outline critical electrical standards and requirements for kiosks. What is a kiosk? A kiosk is a stationary, portable retail store functioning in some type of customer service. Some kiosk stations are enclosed with the vendor, is in the center, and the customers approach the vendor across the counter. Kiosk stations have become tremendously popular these days. All kiosk stations are designed, customized to fit your business plans. The owner will tell their manufacturer what their business needs are and how they would like their kiosk to look. Custom designed kiosks for special businesses, please keep in mind a nationally recognized testing laboratory listing will be required. The kiosk must be listed as a complete assembly when it arrives on the job site. Federal OSHA requirements mandate all electrical equipment in the workspace be certified, subjected to a complete and thorough evaluation before use. Many states and city electrical jurisdictions have similar requirements. Having a complete and thorough electrical inspection and knowing that your electrical system is in good condition will provide a peace of mind. Kiosk stations and their locations. Kiosk stations are prevalent in many locations, including shopping malls, office buildings, medical facilities. These stand-alone structures cater to consumers and are increasingly being customized to suit the owner needs. Some example of kiosks that are custom made: jewelry kiosks, perfume kiosks, restaurant kiosks, different type of restaurants. You have juice bars, you have coffee bars, you have different types of restaurants that are customized for that business plan. You have makeup, cosmetic kiosks, nail bar kiosks, beauty kiosk stations such as for the eyebrow, the phone repair kiosks. You have the kiosks that are popping up in the office buildings. The employers are making it convenient for the employees. Some of the office buildings now have kiosk stations when you arrive, and you can get food items at that kiosk. So they are popping up everywhere. Self-kiosks have gained immense popularity with restaurants, retail, and public spaces, embracing this innovative technology. It's a common sight in many establishments, revolutionizing the way services are accessed and provided. As the inspector, my role is critical in ensuring the safety of the electrical equipment and components within the kiosk, meeting the National Electrical Code, making sure that it meets the National Electrical Code requirements for the safety of the employees, and the safety of the owners. The best case scenario, a kiosk will arrive on the job site with the listing affixed, the listing of a nationally recognized testing laboratory. If the listing is affixed, this simplifies my job. Only the electrical contractor's installation work. That's the only thing that I would inspect, what the electrical contractor installed. That's the best case scenario. I arrive on the job site. I ask the electrician, hey, where's the sticker? They will take me to the sticker. They know to look for that because that's crucial. That's a crucial requirement. That listing is crucial. They know to look for it. Best case scenario. Now, my job is to look at his work, and we're done. If everything meets the requirements, we're done. However, if a kiosk arrives without the listing, a field evaluation becomes essential. I know I harp on that because the field evaluation is a process that takes time, effort, and it will delay the project. So if it doesn't come on the job site, a field evaluation will be essential. This evaluation involves hiring a nationally recognized testing laboratory inspector to inspect the kiosk thoroughly. Once that's completed, they will send a report to the authority having jurisdiction for the final approval. Once the report comes back, the listing agency has gone on site and they have done their testing. So I have compiled a list of code violations from a couple of code violations from the report of the from the inspector field evaluation. Also, I compile a report of what I saw when I walked up on the job. So I'm just going to take you through a process. I'm going to take you through a job that I recently filled. It's a kiosk station, and it's for a popular coffee kiosk. It's a coffee, and it's a popular chain. So when I went up to the inspection, I asked the electrician, did they find the listing? No. Okay. We walk around. I look for the listing. We can't find it. I look and I inspect the kiosk to see if anything other than the listing, if everything else is okay, if the electrical contractor, if his work is okay. I'm looking at everything. So right away, like what I noticed on my inspection, the electrical contractor, his work was pretty good. No issues with his work, but the red flag on this inspection for this restaurant was the motorized closing gate, the gate that closed to open and close for business. So the first thing I noticed, it was Article 110.12, the control box where the motor is located has been altered in the field. The flexible cord is not protected from sharp edges. So that box had been cut, and the flexible cord needed to be protected from the sharp edges. The motor enclosure, it did not have enclosure type number. That's 110.20. Article 110.21, the entire motorized closing gate assembly is missing the manufacturer's markings. So that's a red flag. The manufacturer markings, that's in the NEC, 21. Electrical equipment must have the manufacturer's markings. Article 1329, the wiring inside the motor enclosure assembly has rivets. So the enclosure, it wasn't accessible. That's something that I noticed. Okay. Also, Article 430.8, the motor controller does not have identification voltage, current, and horsepower. 430.103, the motor does not have a disconnect. This is just my observation. Article 430.107, the motor is not accessible. The motor cover has rivets and cannot be removed. Those are the things that I noticed on my inspection. So, of course, a field evaluation was required. The field evaluator came out on the job site. The inspection was performed. When it was completed, they also had issues. So they compiled a list of issues that they found in the kiosk. So their reference is UL D5 on the 7th edition. And the metal raceways shall be rigid, conduit, flexible, conduit. And the metal raceways was flexible, but the conduit was bent so that the spiral section separated. So they found internal issues as well with some flexible cord in the raceway. So the corrective actions that needed to be completed, they needed to replace the raceway. Also, discrepancy found, the raceway shall be free from burrs and fins. That needed to be corrected, so they corrected that to move forward. Verified wood was removed from under the opening of access for the wire cord. So those are some other things that they found. Here's something interesting. The warming oven circuit 2-pole was rated for 30 amp. One of the load conductors provided was 12 gauge and the other was 10 gauge. Conductor needed to be rated for a minimum of 30 amps or 10 gauge minimum. Okay, so the corrective actions there was the conductor was removed and replaced with a 10 gauge conductor. That's something that they found internal that I didn't actually find. Because this came out, it wasn't listed. Keep that in mind. This is an unlisted kiosk. So the discrepancy here, the wiring to the circuit breaker had excessive copper wiring exposed beyond the circuit breaker. So the phase insulator, so it could possibly cause a short. So, of course, they needed to shorten that or clean that up. They found the same thing. No nameplate information was provided, so that needed to be provided. The circuit was provided. One circuit was provided for a cable and plug assembly, but this was not terminated or enclosed with the intended close-up plug or cap. So they needed to have a harness for that cable assembly. So that's the corrective action. So this report is thorough. These are things that they found that the manufacturer did not comply with when this was installed in the factory. This is actually a report that for some issues for the kiosk. The discrepancy, a circuit for the ice maker was not completed at the panel board, but required. Only the wiring harness connector was provided on the back of the panel board. So they had to complete the wiring assembly for the ice maker. That needed to be corrected. There's much more. There was bends in the conduit, as I mentioned. There were some at another location. Incoming grounding conductors were not terminated at the proper points of the sign electrical enclosure. The wiring was installed in a drilled hole in the back of the sign, and no means was provided to protect the wiring from damage. Bushings were required. Class 2 conductors were installed and in contact with flexible metal conduit going through the same opening and not secured. Excessive Class 2 cables and conductors were left hanging without any additional support. Unworkmanlike manner. That's the field evaluation. Discrepancy. The grounding means were not connected to the task lighting track as required. The flexible conduit was supplied with a grounding conductor, but this was cut off inside the conductor, inside the conduit at the point of the power supply connection. Also, an anti-short bushing in the end of the conduit cut was not provided. So they forgot the red head. That's the anti-shorting bushing, is what we call it in this area. Provided. And, of course, the corrective action there was they needed a bushing to be provided. So those are some of the corrections that that the listing agency required the manufacturer to correct before they place their listing, before they put their listing labeling on that kiosk or equipment that is not listed. And if they find any corrections, those corrections must be corrected before you can move forward. Now, part of that process is now you open up another issue. If you have a field evaluation and corrections are required, a new permit will now be required to be taken out to correct the field evaluation corrections. That's separate from the permit that was issued for the kiosk. Now there's corrections that need to be on record that there were issues with the kiosk. We got a report. Now you need to take out a permit. That permit needs to entail the corrections. And once that's done, the corrections are done, the field evaluator will come out on the job site. They will verify your corrections, and they will place the sticker on the equipment, being the kiosk. They will send the report to us. Once that's verified, now we can move forward. But the most important thing to remember is that if you're a business owner, if you're going to have a kiosk, it must be custom made. So keep in mind, if you go to a manufacturer, make sure that they are able to list the kiosk at the manufacturer, not in the field. That will save you time and money. So remember your needs. You know what you need for your business plan. As you listen to these NEC violations, remember these critical requirements while installing electrical equipment. Installations must be safe, and NEC requirements must be met. Inspections. Having inspections can identify unlisted electrical equipment, potential safety hazards like faulty wiring and overload currents, and just any, we can, just to have the inspection is just having a peace of mind for you. Identifying any electrical problems early on can prevent cost, repairs, and replacements in the future. Tune in next week as I give a list of electrical requirements for fixed auditorium lighting, seat lighting, like for theater lighting, school lighting, the college auditoriums, the sporting events. You have auditorium lit seating. The lights are on the seats. So there are issues with those as well and certain requirements. My goal is to be proactive in preventing future non-compliant issues before the inspection. If you have any questions or comments, please contact me on any of my social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, under the moniker Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector. If you would like to add to this discussion or provide any feedback, please email me at asktheladyelectricalinspector@gmail.com with any questions or electrical concerns. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.